now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is BYU Athletic Director Tom Holmoe. Always a treat to have the one and only Tom Holmoe with us on the show. Tom, welcome back. In hindsight, let's start here. How would you define the 2020 BYU football season?
Oh, super, super fun. I say that. I know that game day to me is what it's all about. And we had a bunch of game days. And so I just think back on the season, and the week of the game was kind of topsy-turvy usually. But on game day, just to be in Lavelle Edwards Stadium or to be in the other stadiums where we got to play, I just really cherish those moments. And as I look back on that, it was fun. That's the word.
Take us back to June, because this team starts practicing in July. And then August, obviously, the schedule gets whittled down to as low as 2 games. What were you feeling then, and how did you make this season happen?
Well, it just was a lot of people that were trying to create something out of nothing when you don't really know how to do it. And so I get a lot of credit for this, and I understand how it was so unique, but there were certainly so many people and so many pieces to the puzzle to put it together. And I just look back at it, and I've said this before, there were some good days and some real bad days. But I think most of the days were pretty good. You just kind of chisel away at it. Every day you try to take a few steps forward. You get knocked back a couple times. I learned a lot about some people in the business that you can really trust and some people that you couldn't. I look back and I think it was a great experience personally for me. I think everybody in the COVID era has their own experiences. Mine are unique because they're mine. And I'm sure if you had 1,000 people on as guests, they would have their own COVID experience. So I kind of treasure it because it's mine.
BYU knocks off UCF 49-23 in the Boca Raton Bowl to go 11-1. The Cougars, we think, are going to finish in the top 10 of the AP poll for just the 4th time in program history. But I have to ask, because it came up late in the season, how seriously was BYU considering playing multiple bowl games, if that was even an option?
And I was supposed to tell you that? I wasn't going to say anything right away and during it. I follow social media for our fans that are trying to get involved in BYU athletics and the football team. And there were a lot of questions about that. It did actually come up, and I'll say that now. We had, I'm not going to say opportunities, but there were conversations, but those conversations were taken off the table rather quickly, not by us. And it was just deemed that it was a non-starter by people in high places.
So ESPN.
That would say, no, we're not doing this. And more, I think more, just people in college football, we're not going to go down this road. We're not opening this can of worms. 2020 and the CFP and college football, the whole season, it's been a crazy adventure. We're not going to open Pandora's box and have a second bowl game this year. Forget it. And so did the chance come up? Look, it was just fun, and I'm the only one that knows kind of that conversation. But I thought to myself for about 5 minutes, you've got to be kidding me.
Understandable.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the Coastal Carolina situation. So obviously BYU, and you talked about it, and Kalani talked about it. You guys were hoping to get as many games as possible. Kalani kept saying 12 was the goal, right? You ended up getting 12 with the bowl game, which was incredible. Were there other games? Obviously, Washington became public and that whole thing, but were you trying to get other games, or were you waiting for the right one and Coastal was the right one? And are you still like, yes, it was worth it to take that game?
I think all those possible suggestions are accurate. We were waiting to find the best games, but we would also entertain other games. There came a point late in the season where we realized it really doesn't do us any good to play this game other than the fact that it's a game. And our players wanted to play games. But there came a point when Kalani and I would just say to each other, look, we can't just do this for the entertainment value of wanting to play, because as the season progressed, it became very apparent to us that our players were beginning to tire out in a different way than in past years, maybe like you would see from other schools and other conferences across the country. It became a pretty big drain. And so Kalani and I had to be somewhat wise and kind of take that decision out of the players' hands. They would have played 15 games if we would have let them. But it wasn't going to be in their best interest. And it's hard to get the pulse of every member of the team. But we just felt it was probably the right thing to do to play the games we did. When Coastal came up, that was one of the games where we said, this could be good for us. We felt that would we get into the top and into a New Year's Six at the time? We didn't know if it was happen or not, but it gave us a chance. And I think when we talked to the players about it and the players understood what was on the line, we get to play a ranked team, then that was one that was worthwhile.
So was there a point where you realized, and maybe it was after, Tom, that, even if BYU had won the game, it still didn't mean a New Year's Six was going to happen, which was, I don't know for you, but it was, for us, it was really disappointing. It was like, wait, what? Even if? Because this committee didn't really appreciate, obviously, non-Power 5 teams this year.
Yeah, I tried to not let myself go there because it really is out of our control. I knew that if we played the game, then it had a chance to move the needle. If we didn't play the game, we would have to rely on whatever. That's out of our control if we didn't play the game. Now, people will say, well, you could have been undefeated. At that point in time, it just didn't seem that alluring. It seemed more alluring to try to get as high as we could and to go as far as we could and to play games that our players wanted to play. And so that's why we took that game.
BYU Athletic Director Tom Holmoe on BYU Sports Nation. When you look at what you pulled off with many other individuals helping you as well, as you pointed out, in 2020 and these last-minute schedulings, how will this impact your scheduling philosophy moving forward in the independence era?
Well, not much, because most of our games are scheduled out to about 2030. So we won't really be able to affect the future schedule unless there's changes in the schedule. Now, I can't imagine that we would change anything in our schedule like we have done that in the past. There's always flexibility, but as you look and see our schedules, they're pretty locked down, and there's been a little bit of movement. We actually had a little bit of movement in the last week or so for a couple down the road, a few years, but that will continue, and you'll learn about it generally if the other school, leaks it, or if we get close to the season where we're going to release it.
Obviously, there's been a lot of dialogue around schedules, and I've been at the heart of one end of it and whatever. But did this season indicate anything to you as to how BYU is perceived with a schedule, with winning? And obviously, like a little more protein or Power Fives, right, which wasn't in your control, 6 canceled, were needed to probably be in that New Year's Six conversation. But was there anything you learned in how this played out, winning against all these teams, but the perception of non-Power 5 teams in general?
I think that, your opinion and mine on this would be different, Jarom. I think that this was such a unique year. I think it's an asterisk year. I say asterisk, not in a negative sense, just in an unusual sense. And I would think that if we played a similar schedule every year like this, I think, one, we learned what the CFP thought. Two, I think a lot of people would become tired of it. Three, I think we have the ability to continue to get better. And there'll be times when we are not going to run the table like we did this year with one blemish. But I think all along from the time we first started with the scheduling of independence, I think it's gotten a little bit too tough at times, for sure. There's no question about that. But you either get those games or you don't. And if you don't take some, you're not going to get others. And so if I could go back to the very beginning of independence, then I might have a little bit more experience in scheduling. But we can't. We did what we did, and that's where it goes. So I would say, as I look at next year's schedule, it's tougher than this year's schedule for sure. But I think everybody realizes we were better personnel-wise, coaching experience-wise, and we had a lesser schedule. And that was one of those were the number of things that led to the season that we had.
And
next year, Next year will be a totally new, completely different experience. New leaders, new captains, new positions, new coaches. There'll be so many factors, new teams we're playing, new fans in the stadium. Everything changes, and every year's a new year.
Yeah, a lot of that makes sense, absolutely. And this kind of plays into what I think outsiders of BYU don't get, which is BYU isn't playing for a New Year's Six game every year per se. There are other aims and missions. Yes, you want it, but it's ESPN and it's quality games and it's a fan base and it's boosters and it's tickets and everything else. So I guess there's some happy medium somewhere, right, in a non-asterisk year where you go. And what are we hitting, 10 or 11 years in independence, right? Things evolve. They certainly evolve.
Yeah, sure.
Tom, as we look at what Zach Wilson did specifically, and we're talking about an all-time season, you know it better than most, and you played with some all-time quarterbacks at BYU. Where does what Zach Wilson did in 2020 rank compared to some of the other incredible seasons that other legendary BYU quarterbacks have had?
I think it was right up there. I think it's the schedule was probably similar to some of the quarterbacks that are legendary. Being in the WAC was maybe similar to a WAC schedule. We didn't get a chance to play a lot of non-conference games. I think as I looked, there were some. Mark Wilson played against Texas A&M. Ty Detmer played against Miami. Max played against Oklahoma. I can think of some off the top of my head, but his one season statistically was remarkable, and it's right up there at the top. I mean, his statistics in comparison are right up there with the great ones. Now, you can't just do it on statistics because, like, I was there when Mark Wilson played, and some people don't even know who Mark Wilson is. Let me remind you, he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. And when Mark accomplished what he did for the time, it was remarkable. Same with Giff Nielsen. Same with Gary Scheide, same with Virgil Carter. And, unfortunately, people forget those because the stats aren't going to compare. But if you look at what Zach did, he'll be remembered for the stats, but also the magic. And that's one of the things about our quarterbacks that are in the lore of Cougar football is the ones that are remembered had magical years. And it's not just based on stats.
Yeah, Virgil Carter had a 599 total offense game in the 60s. I mean, just incredible stuff, right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Speaking of the 60s, did want to ask you this. Eldon Forti passed away yesterday, the Phantom. We're going to talk about him in a couple of minutes here. But he had a rushing record, the single game record of 272 for 54 years. First retired number in BYU football history. What kind of legacy did Eldon Forti leave?
Well, I think the legacy that all remember is I knew him. I knew him as a friend. I knew him and Janice very well. When I was a player, I got to meet him, and then being the athletic director, I've had a chance to spend a lot of time with him and Janice and sit down and have memories of their days. First and foremost for me is he was a gentleman. He was a great person. He's like you'd like to be the example of any BYU football player. Secondly, he's a legend. He's the first player to have his jersey retired at BYU. He has a nickname, the Phantom. And from people that were friends of his, that played with him at the time, that saw him play, it's bigger than life. It's almost urban legend around him. And so with Eldon's passing, it's a passing of a big, big piece of BYU football and BYU athletics. And let's just say the university, because he was probably the first legend.
Well said from Tom Holmoe, the BYU athletic director. Oh, by the way, it's game day for BYU men's basketball against number 1 Gonzaga in Spokane. We've been talking football this whole time, but the game of games tonight, and albeit on a few days' notice, just like the Coastal Carolina situation, Tom. So what do you expect from the BYU men tonight in a very unprecedented situation, opening up West Coast Conference play against the Zags?
I just love the fact that Coach Pope and Coach Few they get the spirit of the sport. And this is a game that they put together. I didn't have anything to do with it. These two coaches got together and said, hey, we're not going to miss a game down the road. we have 2 games scheduled with Gonzaga down the road, but we're not going to wait and see if it's going to be a good situation when that time comes. We both have an opening. Let's play now. And that's the spirit that you have to carve through COVID at this time. Obviously, we've missed 3 games, and we're going to make those up, but we're going to have to be super creative. And right now in scheduling, I don't get any credit for the basketball scheduling. Coach Pope and his staff and Brian Santiago, they're working their tails off. It's almost like what football was, but in a really condensed time period. So I'm a little bit tired and fatigued from scheduling, and now the boys get to do basketball. But we're in super good hands, and this is a good witness to see that this game came off tonight. I was listening to the show a little bit earlier, and this is nonsense talking about how many points would be a victory. Come on. We're not going down that road. We're going up there for one reason and one reason only. And I do respect the fact that this might be the best Gonzaga team ever. And when I say might, I might say it is the best Gonzaga team ever. Now they have to finish off the season, but don't you want to play that team?
Yeah.
If I had any
absolutely.
eligibility left, I'd want to be on that court up there tonight.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And as a former committee member, this is going to help the net ranking no matter what, right?
Yeah, let's go. These are games where you dream about when you're a kid. I just feel like when I go to the Marriott Center and you think about that game against Gonzaga last year, one of the things I do in a packed venue is I look around and I look for the little kids. I do it all the time. And I just look at them and I look into their eyes and I see them dreaming. And what they're dreaming about is give me a chance to play in a game like this one day. And it's tonight. And that's what our players, their dreams are coming true tonight.
Now they'll stare into the cardboard eyes in the kennel, right?
The dreams are still happening.
Don't even go there.
Tom, the ultimate competitor, we commend you, to say the least, on what you've done for BYU football and the scheduling madness and navigating through COVID. And not to mention the all-in fundraiser, which has just been so fun to watch and see BYU Sports Nation and Cougar Nation come together and raise funds for that. So, let's get the update real quick. How is the all-in fundraiser going?
It's amazing. I can't wait when we finish the campaign to be able to come in and express my gratitude. I can do it now, but it's a little bit, little cheat on that. But it's fantastic. We're throwing out these numbers every Monday. We're up to about 6,000 donors.
Whoa.
We're at about $11 million. And we're going to go a little bit longer because the money is still coming in. The donations, the letters, the sentiments, the narrative, it's unreal. And it's overwhelming and humbling for me to be able to see how Cougar Nation is getting behind our players, our teams, and our coaches. It's unbelievable.
Tom, we're all in with you, brother. Thanks so much for the time. We appreciate the lengthy interview.
One more thing, boys. Coach Rose.
Oh, absolutely.
Prayers out.
Yeah.
He's had some good, positive things in the last, few days, and he's fighting like crazy and doing a great job. And I just want to remind Cougar Nation, prayers out to the Roses.
No question.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, we send our love as well. Thank you for bringing that up, and we've enjoyed the updates from Cheryl and the Rose family. He's a walking miracle in a lot of ways. Thanks so much, Tom.
Go Cougs.
You got it. Tom Holmoe, the athletic director on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, you know why, we show how.
He can't just throw up a rose like that and not feel something. Wow. A lot to take in from that interview.